Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ass, and we are fighting out here today. We have the Eye of the Tiger. Clearly, I am Adam,
And I'm Steve.
and this is Ass Adam Steve Show, and we're here to talk about some movies and whatnot, and some movie news. First off, let's start off with a new trailer that is out: the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movie produced by
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen. How do you feel about it?
I'm super excited about it. I mean, I'm a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Been watching the cartoons and stuff, and even those live action movies in the 90s. I grew up on those on VHS, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of all this stuff. So, especially with Seth Rogen, he's been doing a bunch of really fun stuff that he's been producing, like The Boys and Invincible on Amazon Prime, and a bunch of different stuff that's kind of just in the same kind of realm of comic book fun animated type of stuff. So I'm excited to see where it goes, especially with him at the helm of it. And this cast is pretty insane.
Mm-hmm. I adore the original Jim Henson. I think it's 1990 that it came out. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, I think, is great. I think it's flawed, but I think it's great for what it is. It's really dark. And then obviously we took a turn into the more kiddie with Secret of the Ooze and Turtles Back in Time. Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the TMNT movie that came out, the CG animated one in the 2000s. That
Yeah.
one's okay. And then we have the Michael Bay produced ones. Do you have any affinity for those?
I mean, I don't hate them. I think as much as a lot of people do, I had fun watching them, but they're definitely pretty flawed. And I like that Johnny Knoxville's in that first one just because it was Johnny Knoxville's voice, which I found hilarious, but
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of hit and miss.
Mm-hmm. I love Out of the Shadow. I mean, I don't love Out of the Shadows. I really like it just because we're really embracing the craziness of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles world. I think Bebop and Rocksteady are really great. Kang's in it, and it's a lot more fun than at the end of the first one where it's like there's a beam in the sky and we got to fight the metal cyborg version of the villain. And so I really like the second one a lot more. But I'm excited for this. I can't wait. The animation style looks cool. We both of us have not seen the trailer,
Hmm.
but because we want to see it, the movie when it comes out. But we'll both be there on day one, I imagine.
Well, yeah, like you were saying, I hope this one follows in those same type of footsteps, like with Bebop and Rocksteady. The casting right here with Bebop and Rocksteady is Seth Rogen and John Cena as Bebop and
Mm-hmm.
Rocksteady. So that's just like fun casting already. And then we
Mm-hmm.
have people like Jackie Chan as Master Splinter, and a bunch of other people in here, like Paul Rudd, I think, is in the cast. And it's just full of fun people that you're not really expecting. I wasn't expecting to see all these names when they announced them, I think at like the Kids' Choice Awards over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's pretty fun, and I think this should be pretty fun, and it's coming out in August, so big summer blockbuster. I think it should probably have some pretty good success too.
Yeah, I'm excited. Oh, let's place predictions right now. Do we think that it will be nominated for Best Animated Feature at the end of the year?
You know, with this team around it, I'm gonna say yes.
I was going to take the opposite of whatever you said. I will take no. No, I think
I
it's got a shot, especially with Puss in Boots getting a nomination. But I have a hard time seeing something that should be this crude, like children's crude, being nominated, being taken seriously by the Academy, especially when Disney looks like they're stepping up their game with Wish and then Pixar with Elemental this year.
I have, but those could like fight each other out, and maybe like the turtles come up and just take that spot. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of movies that are coming out soon, who doesn't love a good musical biopic? Who is the latest person that we are exploiting this time?
The man himself, the king of pop, Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Are you excited about this?
I honestly like. I'm kind of indifferent about it.
Mm-hmm.
I like his music a lot. I think all that's pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff about his life that I don't think really needs to be like in a biopic right now. I don't know. It's a really touchy subject with a lot of the different things that went on, especially in his later life, that I don't know if they're going to want to touch upon. And apparently, it's getting all these different tax credits to get all this big stuff done in California right now. But I can't really say I'm excited about it. Will I watch it? Probably, but I don't know. It's a really touchy subject.
Mm-hmm. I'm very excited about it. Elvis was my second favorite movie of last year. Even the bad ones, like the Whitney Houston movie, was not that bad last year. Bohemian Rhapsody for how maligned it is, it's really not that bad. People just hate it because it won. If it didn't win or get nominated for any Oscars, it would, like, yes, I understand it looks really bad when you put it up next to something like Rocket Man, which came out only like half a year later. But I don't know, Rami Malek's still good, and it's not the Queen movie I wanted, but
Yeah,
it's
there
fine.
are really good things in that movie. It's just like the fact that it won for an editing Oscar, it's just laughable
Mm-hmm.
because it's very poorly edited, and there's a lot of things that I think they had to cut around due to Bryan Singer's involvement. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a messy movie in that regard, but for what it is in that mess, I think it's a pretty decent movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, casual fans really enjoy it. Oh, actually, speaking of casual fans, unless you have anything else you want to say about Michael Jackson,
Nope, good.
so I want to get your opinion on this. There was a little snippet of a TikTok or a podcast or YouTube show that went viral where this guy in this Spider-Man hoodie is saying his two favorite movies of all time are 2012's The Avengers and 2017's The Greatest Showman. Have you seen this?
I have not.
How do you feel about that? What do you think? What's your takeaway from someone
I
whose favorite
mean,
movies are those?
for someone right now who literally watches Greatest Showman at least a couple times a year, since I've now watched it when you and Alex convinced me to buy it at Walmart when I was in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I absolutely adore that movie. I completely understand that one. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, The Avengers is still fun for what it is. So I don't know why people would want to shit on this guy. He just loves his shit. Everyone has
Mm-hmm.
their favorite movies like that. I'm a guy, we're both guys who love Kangaroo Jack, which a lot of people hate. So we're lovers of bad cinema sometimes that people say is bad.
Mm-hmm. I find myself in the reverse of what you said. I love 2012's The Avengers, and I think The Greatest Showman's good. I mean, the 2012's The Avengers is one of my favorite movies of all time. It started me, be loving movies because I was like 12, and it was the first
Yeah.
one that I was like, I need to go back and see that one again because it was awesome. And so obviously that movie holds a special place in my heart. But then The Greatest Showman, like everyone's clowning on him for that, and I'm like, isn't that a pretty popular movie that people really liked? And I was looking up the box office. It made 8 million in its opening weekend, and I think domestically it made up to like 170 million for like a
Yeah.
300 something worldwide. So
And
you know that it was just the quality and word of mouth that got people to see it because it's not a franchise.
and
You know.
if I'm not mistaken, that soundtrack made a lot of money and like streaming and stuff too. Like people love the music from that movie, me included.
It's on the radio all the time. What's
Hmm.
your favorite song from that movie? How many
Um,
of those songs do you have on your Spotify or
a
Apple
lot of
Music?
them. A lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were in my Spotify Wrapped this year, like Other Side and
Yep,
Rewrite
that's
the
my favorite.
Stars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty enjoyed movie, and like I understand that it's not like the pinnacle of cinema. Neither of these movies are the pinnacle of cinema, but like I don't know, just to hate on this like poor kid. He's wearing a Spider-Man hoodie. What do you want? Like you thought he was gonna open his mouth and be like, "Line," and The Godfather Part Two are my favorite movies of all
Amel
time.
Amelie is just the most beautiful movie of all time, and then just goes away.
Yeah, like I don't know, poor kid. I mean, he was like our age, so like I'm looking at him and I'm like, so he was probably also like a late child, early teen when the Avengers came out, and he was probably in theater in high school when Greatest Showman came out.
Hmm.
It makes a lot of sense why those two would be his favorite movies at this point in time. And I just thought it was mean and let people like the things that they like, guys.
Exactly. That is always my thing. Like when I review movies, I like to go in trying to find something that someone might like about it just because it might be someone's favorite movie. And I like that someone likes a shitty something that I cannot see anything in, like Slender Man. If someone really loves that movie and thinks it's like one of the best movies ever, then I think that's so cool for them.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
love
don't I
that.
don't love it. I don't love
Yeah,
Slenderman. I think it's enjoyable and is so bad that it's good. It's like 3 out of 5 kind of way.
it's enjoyable to when we laugh and watch it together. Like in that kind of
Mm-hmm.
setting, it is
Yeah.
great. When you watch it in theaters an opening day, it is very, very bad because there was only
Mm-hmm.
like four people in the theater, including myself. It was like a dad and some teenagers, and then me.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all like kind of laughing, but also like kind of questioning like if this is even serious that what we're watching right now is an actual horror movie.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I used to poke fun that you were loved every movie, and now I feel like that because you know how Letterboxd you're supposed to have that perfect bell curve, and
Hmm.
where most of things are 3 and the fewest things are 1 and 5. And mine's nowhere near a bell curve. It is a straight shot up. I have so many 5-star things,
I don't know what mine even
and
looks like anymore.
I guess I just like things. Yeah, I say that to people to bother them sometimes, but I don't know. And especially these days, I'm like trying to watch, the Ultimate Movie Collection, top 100 greatest movies, best picture winners. Yeah, you have a much better
Kind of.
bell curve than I do.
Mine drops dramatically.
No, but yours is much more the way that it should be.
Yeah.
And I am wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm specifically seeking the greatest movies of all time and like movies that are highly regarded. So yeah, I'm gonna have way more great movies than bad ones. But even the bad ones, I find myself liking from time to time, which we'll talk about later. But any other news before you want to get to the movie we're talking about today?
I don't think so. I think we want to jump into this one.
Mm-hmm. What do we got?
Well, since you're in that background right there, I think we should talk about that little guy who had a lot of fun in those woods, and that might be
Mm-hmm.
Cocaine Bear.
Mm-hmm. When you said that, I thought of Brother Bear because that's what this makes me think of.
It does look like Brother Bear for sure.
Now, Cocaine Bear was a movie that I had on my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year list. And I doubled down and put in my top 5 because I was like, M. Night, Knock at the Cabin's at the top. And then there's a collection of 4 other movies: Guardians, Barbie, Spider-Verse, and Cocaine Bear. And you could any order, and that's fine. But I knew I was going to love Cocaine Bear just from the title. No, it was the fact that it's produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, a duo that just doesn't miss as long as they're given the chance to finish the movie. Hashtags make Solo 2 happen. Fire Kathleen Kennedy. But, I really like the cast here. Elizabeth Banks. I don't care who's directing it. It's Cocaine Bear. I don't want Martin Scorsese directing this. I want a really dumb, fun B movie that's funny throughout and has some good, fun, gore, ridiculous action scenes. And that's exactly what we get here. How'd you feel about it?
Echoing everything you said, I actually didn't know that Lord and Miller were involved in producing this movie. I only knew that it was Elizabeth Banks, which I'm relieved that they were also involved because you can definitely see their DNA all over this. Because
Mm-hmm.
with Elizabeth Banks in her past, she's delivered on some movies that are okay. I didn't really hate Charlie's Angel as much as everyone else did. I thought it had some moments that were cool, and
Mm-hmm.
I think she's competent. And when she's acting, I think she's pretty funny in a lot of different movies she's in. Some things not as much, like the Power Rangers movie. She was a little off in there, but
I didn't know she was in that.
she was the villain in the Power Rangers movie. Yeah.
Oh, I think I heard people like that movie a little bit.
I mean, it's fun. She's a little
Mm-hmm.
off the walls and just feels kind of out of place compared to everyone else in that movie, but I digress. I think she's fun in a lot of things she's in, like 40-Year-Old Virgin is the first thing that always pops into my mind. And although in this movie, I think her comedy actually works and actually plays to the comedy of a Cocaine Bear perfectly
Mm-hmm.
because she just goes over the top with a lot of things, but also in some moments, I was surprised at how tense it gets and how you actually feel like this is a horror movie. Like it
Mm-hmm.
balances the horror and the comedy quite well, but once it gets that tension of like, oh God, this bear's gonna be around somewhere, but we don't know where he's gonna come from and shit like that, and everyone kind of freaking out, and especially when the lady's in the cabin. I don't want to go into many spoilers right away because I would really love people to see this, but
Mm-hmm.
when the lady's in her cabin and she's with the guys and she's like, all right, open the door,
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of stuff is just absolutely hilarious, but also horrifying in the moment. Like if you put yourself in that place, it's just
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And I think they play it perfectly on that line of horror and comedy.
Oh, the lady in question, famous character actress Margot Martindale. Did you ever
Yes.
watch BoJack Horseman?
I haven't watched it too
Mm-hmm.
deeply, but she's in a lot of different things that I've seen too, and she's just hilarious in everything she's in, and kind of she just plays that same kind of character a lot too, of this like
Mm-hmm.
almost like mom-like figure, and it's funny when she's saying these like crude and like swearing and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed her. I actually specifically enjoyed who she was playing opposite of, which is Mitch from the Modern Family show, and he is really going for it. He's being real cheesy here, but he's
Yes,
very committed, and it's very funny.
Jesse Tyler Ferguson. I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea it was him in the beginning. It took me until like right around the time where stuff gets real. I was like, oh shit, that's the guy from Modern Family. I like leaned over to my brother. I was like, that's the guy from Modern Family. He's like, yeah, it is. He had already known, but I thought that was great. The whole cast is phenomenal in this. Like Carrie Russell as the mom of this girl who goes off
Mhm.
with this other kid, and those two kids together were hilarious, talking about the cocaine and everything that they find.
Mhm.
Just going off on that, like all of the character work in this movie is the best part of it because they're all very fleshed out, and you feel like you get enough of the story. Like a lot of people were complaining that there's so much story going on, but I feel like everyone has their moments and everyone's developed quite well, even if like the characters of like we talked about earlier with Solo, what is his
All
name?
Ninerik.
Yes. Who I it was really crazy that we haven't seen him in a lot of movies lately, but I think he kind of steals the show in this movie of him playing Ray Liotta's son. I thought he
Mhm.
was hilarious in that role, and then O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ice Cube's son, I thought was phenomenal too as his buddy.
I think we're both appreciators of Den of Thieves, if I'm not incorrect.
I do enjoy Den of Thieves, yeah.
And it's specifically because O'Shea Jackson's so great in that movie. I mean, and honestly, I think Gerard Butler's pretty good in it too. But yeah, no, I agree. I think I the emotional beats in the movie work enough for me. I think the character threads work enough. Like none of them are super duper compelling and satisfying, but they're sufficient um sidekicks to the humor and the horror, and that's what we're really coming here for. You brought up the children. We have Brooklyn Prince, who you might recognize from the Florida Project, and she's really funny. That whole bit with them talking about cocaine could very easily be very cringy and unrealistic, and good child actors suck and they're not funny, but that was like one of my favorite parts about the movie. Carrie Russell, she's got it going on, baby. And then one of my favorite aspects of the movie was the friendship between All Ninerik and O'Shea Jackson. I thought that actually had a little bit more emotional weight than I expected it to. And speaking of emotional weight, my MVP in this movie, I don't know his name, but the cop in the movie.
Oh yeah, I gotta find his name real quick because yes,
Mm-hmm.
he was hilarious. His whole thing with the dog and everything, that whole relationship and the build up of him like showing all the different things with the dog, that was
Does
some
he
of the
play
funniest
fetch?
stuff. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I would also want to know that about the dog. But no, I thought that was really cute. And yeah, I
Isaiah,
was surprised by how big of a cast we had here.
yeah, Isaiah Whitlock Jr.
Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of story threads that were utilized here, and they all kind of come together pretty decently. I mean, it does feel like at the end, like it's like, so much is happening right now. But and they actually got me to care about the cocaine bear as well. I mean, without spoiling anything, there's a point where I'm like, oh, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
like I don't
and
want to say anything.
the little
Spoiler.
cocaine cubs.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of rooting for the bear a little bit. You brought up Ray Liotta. Someone behind me in the theater when he showed up said, "R.I.P. Ray Liotta," and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Thanks for the input, my guy. Like, this is a movie. I don't know about you, but I had a very rowdy screening. A lot of people talking during this one, and I'm kind of okay with it. Like, it's bad. You're a bad person for talking in the movie, but like a movie that's dumb like this, and we're all here to just have a good time, get litty titty for a B movie like Cocaine Bear. It's a little bit more excusable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is definitely one of those like B movie. People are there and they're gonna have comments and they're gonna be laughing out loud and they're probably gonna
Mm-hmm.
like nudge their buddy, be like, "Yeah, how'd you get that?" Haha, and shit like
Mm-hmm.
that. And which I didn't have too much in my theater. I'll be honest, I might have been that person a couple times to my brother. Like I said, I leaned over and be like, "That's the guy from Modern Family,"
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So but yeah, it's definitely one of those kind of movies that a lot of people are probably pretty excited about, and they heard about it on social media and they want to go take their friends because it's like, this movie's called Cocaine Bear. We have to go see it, Billy, and shit
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Oh, we're getting a lot of that at my theater. Just people like, and then I have people talking about, oh, I want a sequel where it's like I want a heroin horse, and stuff like that. So I think that would be fun, but I think it would be kind of
Or
taking it too far.
Cocaine
Uh,
Tiger.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would take more stuff like this, but I don't
Yeah,
necessarily
we
want
don't.
like a Cocaine Bear 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they talked about doing like a cocaine franchise, I guess is what people were making the jokes about, which
Mm-hmm.
whatever. If they want to try to do something like that, it'll definitely become like a straight to streaming type thing, I'm guessing, but it
Mm-hmm.
would probably be entertaining. I like a good Sharknado every now and then, I'll be honest with you. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm the prime
I
audience for that kind of stuff.
I just hope it inspires more high concept R-rated action comedies like this, instead of these generic buddy cop things where we're getting stuff that's more risky and crazy because
Hmm.
no one's betting on Cocaine Bear. I promise you, I'm one of the few people in this world to put Cocaine Bear on my most anticipated list, and it paid off for me. This is a 5 out of 5. It's everything I need it to be. If the more pretentious crowd out there wants to be like 5 out of 5 for Cocaine Bear, I'd be like, yeah, this is. I had a great time at the theater. I can't wait to go watch it again with friends and make other people watch this movie. And it's such a miracle success story of a movie, and I'm so happy that it exists. So it exceeds in every way that I wanted to.
Yeah, and like you were saying, I want to echo that. It's proof to studios that with the box office, when people showing up for just a crazy movie that no one really knows what it's about other than the title, it's a bear on cocaine. People are
Mm-hmm.
going out to see it, so studios can take more chances on stuff that's not Toy Story 10 and Fast 9 and shit like that. We can take chances on something that's not a complete sequel or a known IP.
Mm-hmm. And I think there was a day because I think I saw a tweet from Phil or Chris Miller that Cocaine Bear was outperforming Ant-Man in its second weekend,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, especially since Ant-Man's like bad, like it's probably helping Cocaine Bear's chances. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of legs Cocaine Bear has when March in its onslaught of franchise movies, comes in to take its shine. But I feel like it's such an out there concept, such a different type of movie that people will prioritize this over the sixth Scream movie, and stuff like that.
Yeah, bitch.
But that's pretty much all I have on Cocaine Bear. If the title of this movie sounds appealing to you, go see it. It's fulfilling in every single way. If you're someone who's like, that's no cocaine, that's bad, and I don't want to promote the fun aspects of cocaine, the funny aspects of cocaine, then you won't like this. And I feel like a lot of my reviews are like that, where I'm just like, if you think you like this, you will. But yeah,
Yeah,
it delivers.
it's exactly that. And for the people that I even shared it on Twitter, one person that was like, it's promoting drug use to kids and glorifying cocaine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the movie. It really doesn't. It's just
Mm-hmm.
showing you it's a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's and people were like talking about how violent it is, saying that they couldn't watch it and how it's too real and stuff like that. It's a movie about a bear on cocaine, people. It's a horror
Mm-hmm.
movie and it's a comedy. Don't
Mm-hmm.
take it too seriously. Just go to the theater, and if you want to laugh, I promise you it's okay to laugh at things, and it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
funny. So go out there, and it is very, very gory though. I will tell you that if you're not too into gore, although it's kind of CG for most of it, it's
Mm-hmm.
still very fun. And I think the CG, even though it does look not as realistic, I think it plays into the joke of it. And I think it's very, very fun. I rated it a
Mm-hmm.
4.5 out of 5. I think it could easily be a 5 once I watch it again. It's exactly everything you want it to be. It's Jaws on cocaine. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing and it's pretty fun. So go check it out.
Mm-hmm. And that was our nice little warm up fight. And now for the big event matchup of the season, we have Creed 3.
And with Creed 3, I am a pretty big fan, especially of the Creed franchise, let alone the Rocky movies. So I
Mm-hmm.
had pretty big expectations because, especially Creed 2, I'm a huge fan of Creed 2. It's honestly right up there next to Rocky for me when I came to my rankings, just because I love it
Mm-hmm.
so much. It's like a spiritual sequel to to Rocky 4 with the whole story of Drago and everything. And I
Mm-hmm.
loved all the story and all of the heartfelt moments with not only his story with Rocky, but with his girlfriend and him having a child, and just all of that together really connected with me for some reason. And I just really adore that movie. So when
Mm-hmm.
Creed 3 was announced, I was super excited. And when it was announced that Michael B was stepping in the director's chair for the very first time, I
Mm-hmm.
was pretty I had my hesitations just because it's a first time director stepping into a franchise, but I think he put his own style on this and he had a lot of fun with it because, especially the boxing matches specifically, I think they were very stylized and he kind of made it into his own new way of kind of filming the fighting in a way. And I'm not going to go into spoilers too much, but especially the things he did as like visuals in the last fight, kind of the visuals of himself and Jonathan Major's relationship. I thought that was really cool the way he kind of visualized it with their boxing match and kind of isolated them without the audience. I thought all that stuff was really, really cool and
Mhm.
just really spoke to how he sees movies in a way and how he's seeing it from not only as an actor but stepping back and seeing it from the bigger picture. I thought that was really dope to see him have all that style to a movie that could have very well been a cookie cutter franchise movie.
Hmm. Um, yeah, had a weird relationship with Rocky. I never really liked the first movie that much. I respected it way more than I liked it. And I saw Creed when it came out, and same thing. I respected it more than I liked it. It's just a boxing movie. But recently, with the new one coming out, I was like, I'm going to dedicate myself. I'm going to watch every single Rocky movie and Creed movie. And I rewatched Rocky, fell in love. And then Rocky 2 through 4 were all like really good too, like really solid. Not as good as the original, but still really, really good. And then Rocky 5 is mid at best, I think. I still enjoyed it. Rocky 6 is much more on par with 2 through 4 for me. And then all the Creed movies, going through those, I think they're very well done. And I think there's a lot of good things about them. But nothing that like I'm writing home about necessarily. I put them on the same level as I put the other good Rocky sequels at. But coming up for this new one, I was specifically excited because my big problem with the first two Creed movies is I think a Rocky movie is only as good as its villain, really. And I think it's such a like this movie features the villain. Like there's a poster specifically with the villain. And Jonathan Majors is really having a moment right now. So seeing that we were featuring, the villain in this one, I was much more excited. And that's definitely the best part about this movie is Jonathan Majors' performance.
Absolutely. Jonathan Majors is fantastic, and he definitely this will be the role that everyone's talking about at the end of the year because Ant-Man, he was the best part of that movie by far, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately that movie will probably not be spoken about within a couple more months from now.
Mm-hmm.
But in this movie, him taking over the role as Dame, I believe was his name in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
he was fantastic because this relationship is something that we weren't really aware of beforehand. We knew that Adonis was an orphan, but we didn't know his relationship with the other people in that group home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very evident of that past life that he lived and all of the emotions that he still carries with him from his past life. And it was really cool to see not only Jonathan Majors play that character that's been in prison for 15 years and is finally getting out and had a boxing career that he wanted to obtain, but unfortunately was cut short due to his actions and partially due to Adonis being with him and stuff like that and kind of getting away and having what he is battling with in the movie with does he feel guilty for him being caught and things like that and does he owe him
Mm-hmm.
anything and all of that complicated relationship with these two characters just made for a very emotionally impacted movie when it comes to not only those moments between those two but when they fight it just felt that much more important too.
I agree. There's a personal beef between our hero and our villain, which really mattered to me. Whereas in the first Creed movie, I don't care about who the pretty boy is his name. I don't care. I don't care about the villain in the first movie. The villain in the second movie is cool, not because of things that are done in Creed 2. It is exclusively the fact of the history of, oh, well, this guy's dad killed my dad, so I want to beat him. But there's nothing like really too personal between
I mean
what's
that's
it?
pretty personal.
I mean, I guess, but like it's not direct, it's all
Fair.
upper level stuff. It's nothing, they don't personally hate each other for any reason because it's not like what's Dolph Lundgren's Ivan Drago and the kid's name is like it's like a very Russian name like
Oh, I know
you
it.
like Vanko or something like that. I don't know. But they don't personally hate each other for any reason besides stuff that's going on. It's Victor Drago. But this, yes, they know each other. They've known each other for so long. They know so much about each other, and they really don't like each other. And you understand why. And it's not all because of Rocky. Whereas in the first two movies, I really like that we get room to breathe without Rocky, and we have time for Creed to have his own movie. Truly, this is the first one where it's just Creed and no Rocky. But at the same time, I miss Rocky. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I was very disappointed because they talk around Rocky. They talk about how this isn't the first time that an unknown guy is getting a title shot and things like that. They talk
Hmm.
around him, but they don't even really, I don't think they even really reference the name of Rocky in it whatsoever, which was
Hmm.
very disappointing. And I actually just saw something recently of why that was. And apparently it's due to the producers, actually, not Michael B. Jordan whatsoever. Michael B. and Sylvester Stallone have a great relationship. And Sylvester Stallone even says that he'd love to do Creed 4 without the producer that's involved that apparently took like partial ownership of it when Rocky was sold in the beginning from Sylvester Stallone when he wrote the original script, I guess. This
Hmm.
producer's been involved and apparently has just been picking fights and stuff with Sylvester and actually told Michael B specifically that he could not include Rocky in this new movie, which feels very off because this movie is centered around especially Michael B's family, and it feels very strange that, especially with a lot of the things that happen in this movie, that Rocky isn't involved in these situations.
Hmm.
So that was very disappointing. But at the same time, I think the story is written well enough that unfortunately it does still work without him being there.
Hmm. You said that Stallone would be down to be in Creed 4. No, I'm done. No, he like that was one of the things I thought of is I was like, because I hadn't seen Creed 2, but I knew he wasn't going to be in Creed 3. So I was like, does he die in Creed 2? Like, I was kind of wondering how they're going to handle that situation. And watching Creed 2, I was happy that we kind of got that Captain America, like, off into the sunset kind of ending.
Well,
Because do you really want to see Rocky die? You
no,
know?
no, no. But the thing that I would have loved to see in this one is like kind of how they showed him in
Mm-hmm.
part of Creed 2, where he's watching like from his restaurant, he's watching them fight because he didn't go to Los Angeles because they were fighting and shit like that. If they
Mm-hmm.
would have showed him like with his son and grandson, like watching Michael B fight and just like a scene where he's at the end where he's fighting Jonathan Majors and they just show him at home, I think something like that would be a good thing to include Rocky in. And like when they
Mm-hmm.
have like a funeral scene or whatever, like a scene that makes sense for him to be there, something like that, like a cameo role. But he does not need to be the center of any of the stories or stuff like that, I don't think anymore.
Well, if you have him in like one scene like that, then people could be like, well, if he would come back, then why isn't he back? And it kind of reminds me, remember in The Dark Knight Rises when everyone's breaking out of the jail towards the end in Arkham, and you're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if they showed like one of the doors open and we see the back of one prisoner and he's got green hair and we just see him walk out and you're like, all right, the Joker got out too. People would be like, oh, well, I want to know more. Like if you bring attention to the thing that's not there, people are going to want it even more. So while this movie does pay homage, like yes, it's like, it's a Rocky situation. A nobody gets a shot at the title. Like you still have the themes of Rocky there without being like calling attention to the fact that Stallone's gone.
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, if you just say Sylvester Stallone is in the movie and he's in there for 5 minutes, people are going to go to the movies just to see Sylvester Stallone. So, from a box
Mm-hmm.
office standpoint and from a studio standpoint, it's pretty smart to do still. I
Mm.
get what you're
But
saying from the story wise, it might be cheap, but I think it would work and I think it would still be paying if he wants to be involved and he created this franchise basically and
mm,
created the legs. Like if he wanted to pop up in one of those small roles, I think it's cool. But I get
mhm.
what you're saying.
Well, like I love the scene in Creed when he's like, "Oh, like the my Adrian tried the whole chemotherapy thing or whatever, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to go through that." And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to see Rocky have
Oh yeah, I
cancer.
don't
That's
want
not
that.
really a thing
I'm
that I
just saying
really
for
am
him to be
interested
there
in.
to be like a Mickey character of him being the support that he's there for him. Not
Mm,
like I don't need the parts of him like, oh, we need to see Rocky die and stuff like that, and we need to
mm,
see him go through an accident or some crazy shit like that. I'm just
mm,
talking about him showing up just to be because it just feels strange because they built up that literally he is his basically father figure now. And the fact that
mm,
he's not involved in his life anymore and he didn't even reference him about his kid and anything like that. And literally, I don't want to spoil anything, but big things happen in this movie that seems like a person that's playing a father figure would be involved in these
mm.
situations. And those kind of situations is where it felt like you could have had him in, but
Well, I understand the whole Star Wars poetry. Like, you got to adhere to the formula. The master usually passes away in some kind of form, and now our main hero has to go on their own without the crutch of the, the mentor character figure type there. But I don't know. Yes, I think it's all messy, but that's kind of where I'm like when it comes to comparing this movie to the first two. Where it's like, yeah, I mean, it has things that I like about it. The first two don't have like a good villain, but it doesn't have Sylvester Stallone. And when I'm watching a Rocky movie, and I know that these are Creed movies, but it's in the Rocky world, the Rocky universe, and I want to see Stallone. And so that's kind of a downer in this movie for me personally.
Yep. I definitely missed his involvement, but I get why he wasn't involved. And if he was involved in a small aspect later, that'd be cool. But at the same time, I think
Mm-hmm.
it would still work as Creed movies that we continue without like I do think that he should be at least talked about, and it shouldn't be like a just like referencing his like how they did it in this movie. They literally said like an unknown fighter. Just say Rocky. It's really weird to just avoid saying the name, but you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to show his face or anything like that. But that kind of stuff, like being like a Voldemort, you can't say his name, it just feels stupid, especially when
Mm-hmm.
he's the guy who created the whole thing.
Another thing that you brought up earlier that I wanted to touch on was the action sequences in this movie and how Michael B. Jordan brings his own personal style and who everyone and their mother heard about anime. We let's watch anime. He shows Jonathan Majors some anime and says we're gonna do something like this. And yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about the movie too, especially since like these movies get really formulaic, especially like me, like who watches these all within 1 month and you're watching them back to back to back. And it's like I'm watching the same movie over and over again. It's nice to have a breath of fresh air of the fight at the end of this movie. And then it's not just the fight at the end of the movie, there's other fights throughout the movie that you're like, that visually, there's stuff going on here that I've never seen in a Rocky or Creed movie before. And I think that's one of the strong suits as well compared to the first two movies. But when you ask me to compare this movie to the first two, at the end of the day, I think it's a lateral move. I think they're all 4 out of 5s, and if you ask me which one's my favorite, I'd be like, throw a dart, and that one's probably my favorite, I guess.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there, but in my opinion, I think all three of these movies specifically have their own unique styles, especially when it comes to the way they're filmed in the fights, specifically with the boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think each one lends to the story that's being told at the same time. Because even
Mm-hmm.
this one, although I think the fighting, I like it the second best. I think there are things about it, especially story wise, that unfortunately do put it at the bottom for me. But at the same time, all of these movies for me, the first two are perfect, like 5 out of 5s, and even this one's like on that fringe of like a 4.5 out of 5, just because I adore them. I think they all
Mm-hmm.
have very, very cool styles, but Creed 2, Creed and Creed 3 and Creed 1 honestly like bounce back and forth for me. I honestly think I might even switch them eventually just because
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that he, especially Michael B, just put all that, like you were saying, anime. I never thought about it, but that's completely what it is and what it feels like
Mm-hmm.
because it's so large scale and almost feels almost cartoonish in a way, but not like cartoonish, not a bad word by any means, but it's just very unique and it's not something that you really see in a live action movie, especially. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really interesting. So
I
yeah,
hear
I
very
feel
often about the second one being underrated. So what you're saying about it definitely tracks. But if I had to pick, I'd probably go with the first one just because like it's The Force Awakens again, just another legacy sequel. So like that's why it's got me rolling my eyes. But Stallone has a great performance in it, and everything with him is awesome. And it's the first time that we got to see Michael B. Jordan in this role. The villain's definitely the weakest of the three, but like it's got the best director by far of the three, Ryan Coogler.
yeah, I love that he's still involved too with the writing process, even though he's not directing.
Mm-hmm.
He's been involved in the writing process in all three movies, which I think is pretty awesome because it still feels like even though they do have their unique styles in the fighting and stuff, it
Mm-hmm.
still has touches of his style that he created in the beginning when he kind of revamped the Rocky franchise with Creed.
Mm-hmm. So I want to hear your ranking of the franchise, and we'll kind of go from there. Like we'll split off into
So I'm trying
specific
to
movies.
remember. Rocky 5 is definitely the lowest.
Did you rewatch any of these in preparation for
The only one I
these?
rewatched was Creed 2.
Mm-hmm.
just to confirm that I that I love it, I guess.
Because they're all fresh in my head right now.
Yeah, I think I did it in my video. And actually, like, wait, just one second, just so I can be sure, because I do have it right here.
All right, I'll let you know mine. Obviously, I think Rocky is undisputed at the top. Do you agree with that, or do you think that
Yes.
there's another one that you want to put in the same echelon?
Nope, Rocky is the number one for me as well.
Okay, so I got Rocky at the one, and then I'm gonna go with very quickly. My order will be 4, 2, 3, 6, Creed 3, Creed 2, Rocky 5. Maybe put the Creed movies ahead of Rocky 6 and maybe ahead of Rocky 3. But I really like Rocky 2 and I really like Rocky 4. Rocky 4 is awesome. Like it's a lot cheesier, but it's got the iconic stuff that everyone likes. Actually, and I really like Rocky 3 as well. I just prefer the Rocky sequels over the Creed franchise. That's my hot take.
I get it. It makes sense. Mine right
Mm-hmm.
now, I think, would be Rocky 5, then probably Rocky 3.
From bottom to top?
Yeah, from bottom to
Uh,
top. Yeah, yeah. Then probably
Rocky
Rock.
3, he's got the cool ending where they fight and you don't know who
I'm
won, you
I'm
know?
not a big like that part I do like, but the rest of it with like Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, like I'm not a big fan of all that different stuff in there. But after
Mm-hmm.
that, then probably Rocky Balboa, then probably Rocky 4,
Wow.
and then probably Creed, then Creed 3, then
You got Rocky 2 and Creed 2 left.
yeah,
And Rocky.
then Rocky 2, then Creed 2, and then
Mm-hmm.
Rocky, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's no slight to these Creed movies. I think almost every single Rocky movie is a 4 out of 5, except for Rocky's a 5 out of 5, and Rocky 5 is at best a 3 out of 5. But I don't know. I guess I just prefer Stallone and his goofiness, and he's just such a likable little goofball, and I love him. So I prefer watching him over watching Michael B. Jordan, who's kind of a jerk at times. Like he's fine. I get why he's a jerk at times, but like Rocky's so cute.
I love the character of Rocky, and I think I just love the boxing in the Creed movies a little bit more, just because they're so stylized and
Mm-hmm.
because they're now where we can do more stuff now and move the camera around and do a lot more crazy shit with the boxing, I think is why I love those movies so much. But
Mm-hmm.
story-wise, the Rocky movies are definitely so much fun, and the character of Rocky and the journey he goes on is just so much fun to watch. But Rocky 5, such a garbage movie. Like Tommy Gunn, I hate that character so much. He's one of my least
Mm-hmm.
favorite characters like in cinema history, let alone the Rocky franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them are like 4 out of 5, just blast to watch. Like if you're down for a just a emotionally heartfelt and like pounding soundtrack, a heart pounding soundtrack, and just a fun boxing movie. That's all they really are. They have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of emotion to that boxing, and you want Rocky to win so bad, and they get you so emotionally involved. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're down for the blockbuster movies that they are, you're gonna have fun watching any of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just hard for me not to look at the Creed franchise and be like, oh, it's just another legacy sequel franchise that we're digging up old franchise recognition. And what you said really translated me was like, oh, the fighting is much more cool than the new ones. I don't give a rip. Like I like the fighting in this
That's
one
where
because
we
it's
differ.
so
Yeah,
stylized. But like what I'm really going to for a movie usually is I care much more about the story and the characters and the performances than I do about the action sequences. I recognize that we're watching a boxing movie, but that's why I prefer the Stallone franchise versus the Creed franchise. But I
but
think the Creed franchise is very good, and
I was about to
I
say,
wouldn't mind it going on.
it seems like Creed 3 would be almost your favorite then because it has both of those. It has the unique boxing and it has a very emotionally charged story. But I guess you don't love Michael
Mhm.
B as much.
Yeah, I think that the third movie kind of drags in the middle a little bit. It's kind of weird because the spoilers they challenge each other to a fight at some point.
It's on the
Um,
posters.
but yeah, I thought that the fight challenging situation was brought in way too late in the game, and I thought it was going to be way more in the middle, I guess. But Nah, I don't know. I like Jonathan Major's character. I like I don't know, I just didn't care about anything going on with his mom, I guess. But all the stuff with his family besides that really reminded me of like Kobe Bryant, the entire movie.
Yeah, I love Tessa Thompson. I think she's one of the best parts of this franchise too,
Hmm.
especially
Yeah,
the
I think
Creed movies.
she's good as well, and I like her like little musical scenes that we get with her every now and then is nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's just for a while, it's she's just kind of like, oh, I everything. I hope this guy doesn't get too carried away, and then like it's too late in the game for it to get personal. I think like that as personal as it gets. I wish that would have been introduced sooner. Like it just starts and he's like, "Oh, I'm retired. It's over, guys." And like every single Rocky movie sequel starts with them being like, "I'm retired and I'm not doing it." I guess I'm just tired. You know, this is the ninth Rocky movie. I'm kind of tired of it. You know.
Yeah, I get it. I think
But
this
I
one
but I wouldn't
has,
mind him going on as long as you do cool villains. Just every single time, have a new young person like that everyone likes, and just to give him a really meaty performance and have some crazy visuals, and that's fine. And I'll see them all.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna keep watching them because I like the way they're shooting the fights, like I said, and I think there's enough emotional story in there for me to keep connected to with all these different characters that they brought in.
Mm-hmm. This is my fourth favorite movie of the year right now, because as much as people like talk about how great of a year it's been so far, I do not feel that way. Cocaine Bear, which we talked about earlier, is my number one, followed by Knock at the Cabin. And then we have Infinity Pool, which we talked about last time. But this Creed is just below that, but just ahead of Megan.
Yeah, I think this one definitely takes the top for me right now, and then probably Megan, and then right behind that, uh,
Cocaine Bear is not.
probably Cocaine Bear right there.
Okay. Gotcha. But pretty good year for movies so far. I'm at a 4 out of 5. Do you have anything left to say about Creed 3?
Nope, definitely go see it if you're a fan of the franchise or if you just want to see a really good boxing movie. I think it's really fun to see, and I saw it in IMAX, and I loved the sound especially and the big scope of those fights definitely lends itself to the big screens. If you get the chance, go check it out.
And speaking of people checking it out, the box office has been doing very well. I think you said 58 million is where the domestic total currently sits at.
Yep, we got the exact right here right now. It's 58.3.
So pretty much a shoe in to cross that $100 million domestic threshold, meaning that the Rotten Tomatoes score of is it 89?
87 currently. Like it's all blacked
87.
out.
That would give you, I think, a 40-point lead over me because I think Ant-Man, I think, had 46, 47%. So, and that already made 100 million domestically, so I don't have to worry about that. But when Creed crosses the $100 million mark, you all have a 40-point lead. And this should be quite the month for you in the game because next week we have Scream, which is yours, Shazam, which is yours, and John Wick, which is also yours.
I'm a king of sequels, my man. I'm
Well, they're
honestly,
good bets.
I'm so excited about every single one of these movies.
Oh, I'm so prepared. I brought up how I watched all of the Rocky and Creed movies. I watched Shazam again. I'm going backwards through the Scream franchise right now, and I'm halfway through the first one. And I've watched all the John Wick movies for the first time. But my most anticipated movie of March is 65, starring Adam Driver. That actually made the 10th spot on my most anticipated list of the year.
If he doesn't have soup with a dinosaur, I'm gonna be really pissed off.
I don't know. It just seems like such a fun like B horror movie, and
Oh yeah.
you know, with anything with dinosaurs, I'm there.
It's like
Um,
dinosaurs and time travel and a bunch of crazy stuff. I'm down for whatever this is. I'm not even really sure what it is. I haven't really watched any of the trailers. I saw the posters basically. Adam Driver with dinosaurs. I'm down.
mhm. Now, any other movies that you have seen as of late that you would like to talk about here today?
Which one should we get to first? So we exchanged Voodoos. You want to talk about some of these movies we've been watching on Voodoo?
So I like to think that I have a lot of movies. And then I remember I sent you a message being like, oh, by the way, if you ever need, here's my voodoo. If there's anything you need, he has 3 times as many movies as I do. That being said, yours is a family account, right?
It is. I
Yeah,
share
there's
it with
some weird stuff on there, man.
yeah, I share it with my brothers, and I think some of my cousins might have it still too.
Hmm But I've been very interested because you've gone through a bunch of crap on my Voodoo. Which one would you like to talk about first?
Well, one that I know we both watched, and we watched them both recently because you rewatched it, and that is The Last Airbender from Adam's favorite director, M. Night Shyamalan.
Hmm
Now, I am a huge fan of the Nickelodeon TV show Avatar: The Last
hmm
Airbender, which is this is based off of, kind of. Not even
hmm
like a little bit loosely based off of, but they take a lot of liberties in this one.
hmm
And I personally despised it. Like I knew
hmm
everyone disliked it going into it, but I wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and all of the fuss was warranted.
hmm
There's a lot
Now,
of different things that they do that, like, there are some parts about it that are definitely watchable, but some of
mhm.
the CG looks really bad. The Appa Bison, that it looks really adorable in the cartoon, looks like a demon in this movie.
Really? Because that's one of the things that I first would bring up when I would defend this movie is I would say that the creatures actually look pretty cool. Specifically, those lizards climbing the wall. Those look dope.
Some of those look pretty cool, but Appa himself, I love him in the cartoon. I just thought he looked very strange in the movie.
Hmm Now, a little bit of context here from my perspective on this movie. M Night's my favorite director of all time. I am actually going through an M Night binge. I've seen Knock at the Cabin 3 times in theaters. I've gone through pretty much everything except After Earth. Glass, I'm waiting to see with a buddy, and I could rewatch Old, I guess, but that's a little bit fresh in my mind right now, so I've been waiting on it. But The Last Airbender was on my list, obviously, and I own it on my Voodoo. And I've always said, oh, it's one of those so bad that it's good. Like you can enjoy laughing at it and whatnot. And it's such a ridiculous disaster piece of a movie. I think it's okay.
It's not
I think it's
okay.
all right. Like
It's
I
not.
watched it and I had a fine time. I was entertained. There was this cool fantasy world that they were introducing me to. I mean, I saw the show too, and the show's infinitely better. Yes, but I think if someone did not watch the show and they didn't know anything about it, they'd be like, "Yeah, that's all right."
Dev Patel feels like the most miscast person almost ever. He does not feel
Right.
like evil or menacing at all. He just seems like
Mm-hmm.
an innocent guy, like in real life especially. Like he doesn't go off as this mean guy that literally wants like to burn shit. Like in the movie, yeah, the character is a little bit misunderstood, but he's supposed to be a lot more menacing, and especially in a lot of scenes that I'm just not really buying him being mean whatsoever. Especially because you've
Mm-hmm.
seen him in things like Hotel Mumbai and Slumdog Millionaire, where he just seems like a very nice fella.
Mm-hmm. I actually got to disagree. I think that's the one performance that I think really is redeemable in this movie. I think he's a lot of fun. Then that's a really meaty role, Zuko, especially if you watch the show, you know about his, kind of, well, he starts at such a low point and it goes so much lower. And,
Yeah.
he kind of has this redemption arc going on. Like he's a lot like Kylo Ren. And I really
Yes.
like everything with the Fire Nation in this movie, specifically the guy that's like trying to like take Zuko's spot, kind of.
I know
I
you're
know
talking about, yeah. I can't remember his
I
name.
know his I looked up his name recently and I know I'd mispronounce it, but he's such a cheesy fun villain. And then obviously Uncle Iroh is such a like admirable character. So everything with them is great. And I know a lot of people get mad at the whitewashing of the main cast of this movie, but the Fire Nation, that is not the case. And I will defend that casting.
Yeah, I think there are moments in this movie that are entertaining and they're fun to watch at times, but then there are just parts that are just un unwatchable at times. Especially like the little boy that's playing the main character, he just
Mm-hmm.
annoyed the hell out of me a lot of times.
He's bad. He was 12. He was 12 when he was making this movie. I think Nicola Peltz, she was also like 14 years old or something like that. Like people already hate child actors, and I understand. And the one who got the worst of the brunt of the hate was Jackson Rathbone. I think he was also in the Twilight franchise. He plays Sokko in this movie, and he
Um,
was an adult when he filmed it. So I guess
yeah.
we can rightfully make fun of him. But we talked about the Razzies last week, and oh, it's so mean to make fun of the girl from Firestarter, but we will easily condemn Noah Howery or something like that.
Yeah, I don't blame him as much for this as I blame M. Night. I'm not gonna be honest with you.
Mhm,
I think M. Night just took a lot of swings with this movie, and I think he just, like I wrote in my letterbox review, I think he was at a impasse with a lot of these decisions, and he just totally chose the wrong one a lot of times.
mhm. I think he was the
Which,
wrong decision, and he claims this is a mistake. Like he does not claim to love this movie. And I had a buddy of mine that I respect who was like, "Hey, how Adam? How could you possibly, as an M Night fan, love a movie with such little M Night in it?" And I agree. I understand that, but I think there's enough of his fingerprints there. I mean, it's funny because he said in an interview that he wanted this movie to be shorter. And it's like one of the big problems is you're trying to condense a season of television into this 1 hour, 100-minute movie.
yeah,
And he said he wanted it to be 90 minutes because that's the type of movie he makes, especially going through his filmography again. He makes 105-minute movies where there are these small personal dramas. Even Glass, which is supposed to be his big superhero, finale, is like famous for like, oh, let's flex this like cool building that we're supposed to have the climax at. No, it's going to take place in a parking lot, and it's going to be so small scale and character focused.
yeah.
And so making a big blockbuster with Nickelodeon and Paramount especially was
That's
was
what's
a bad idea.
that's what's so puzzling to me is why Nickelodeon or why Paramount specifically went to M. Night for this job. Because
Mhm.
before, like the movies he made before that, I don't know why they really like warranted them to go to him for this job. Because I don't know what other directors were working at the time that I can think of just off the top of my head, but he just doesn't seem
Mhm.
like the guy I would run to make something like this, especially with like Unbreakable before that and Sixth Sense
Mhm.
and Signs were his movies. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
why those movies would be like, yeah, that's the guy that needs to do the Airbender movie.
I know he was interested in it because his kids were interested in it, and
Okay.
that's how he kind of got into the movie. And I don't know. I don't even think that this is his worst. Like I know I like it generally. I gave it like a 3 out of 5
Oh
on
yeah.
this recent viewing.
It's
I'm
not his
way higher
worst.
than everyone else.
I can promise you it's
Really?
not his worst. Yeah.
What do you think is
I
his
think The
worst?
Happening is by far his worst movie. That
Really?
movie is
Because
horrible.
that's great. Because most people would say Last Airbender, and there are
Yeah.
people who would say The Happening. I would say After Earth.
I have not watched the whole thing of After Earth, at least not recently enough to really give an argument good enough for it, but and
Mhm.
I haven't seen Lady of the Water yet or whatever, but that's on your
It's on
voodoo
my
as
It's
well.
on my
Yeah, I'll be watching that soon enough. But yeah, I just when I watch The Happening, there's nothing about that movie that I really can even almost even laugh at times. Because even the parts that you want to laugh at, I've seen it enough times where it's not even really that fun anymore. It's just cringy to watch, and Mark Wahlberg is literally at his worst. I don't think he's been in worse in any other movie.
I'll admit it's hard to argue that The Happening or that the Last Airbender is so bad that it's good. Like you see how much I'm struggling to defend it, but The Happening is so bad that it's good. Mark Wahlberg's performance and Zoe Deschanel and John Leguizamo, all phenomenal. Like talk about bad idea, and it's funny after rewatching Signs, which actually I forgot I haven't rewatched The Happening. I got to watch that again.
Need to rewatch
But
that too.
like Mel Gibson in Signs plays a character. Same thing with Bruce Willis in the first two M Night movies as well. You take these guys who are these big, serious action stars, and you put them in these roles of these men who are so broken and so afraid. And I think Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson are infinitely better actors than Mark Wahlberg, who really only knows how to play one type of dude. And so I think that's kind of where a lot of the humor in his performance comes from, is him struggling to be a serious actor.
Yeah, and playing like a science teacher, like I can't see Mark Wahlberg as a science teacher at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it feels very weird, but at the same time, yeah, because it's such weird casting that it makes it kind of funny. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen it recently enough to even remember it. Like I kind of remember that Zoe Deschanel was in it, but I had no idea that John Leguizamo was in it. So that's funny.
Mm-hmm. And it's just so ridiculous, and it's such a silly movie.
Is the
The
tree
twist
talking?
or twist is insane. And I think I watched it about a year or two ago, so it's pretty fresh. It's probably why I waited on it a bit. But I do love that. The Happening is a 5 out of 5 disaster piece of a movie for me. I love that movie. It's hilarious.
I,
It's
I,
up there
res-
with Cats.
I respect that.
Mm. I'm an M Night Shill, so none of what I'm saying should be taken seriously. I gave Knock at the Cabin a 5 out of 5, which in reality probably like a 3 or like a 4 at best. But like I loved it.
But you know what was even worse than
But,
fucking Last Airbender, realistically, was that garbage ass Cinderella movie.
oh, I thought you were gonna say Snake Eyes, and I was like, Snake Eyes was okay.
Now, Snake Eyes is fine. That's my review on it. I don't hate it. I
there were
like a lot of the
snakes.
cast in it, and I wish the fighting was better in it because a lot of those people in that cast are
Mm,
phenomenal fighters. But
mm.
it's fine for what it is. But Cinderella with fucking James Corden and whoever else is in that movie,
Camila Cabello.
yeah, I don't really know her music that well enough, but this movie was just so uninspired and just basic. It's all pop songs. There's not any original music in it, I don't
A
think at
jukebox
all.
musical.
Yeah, and the cast is just whatever. What I mean, it has the guy that was
Adina
the James
Menzel.
Bond, Pierce Brosnan,
Yeah.
just randomly in there. He's playing a goofball king guy. It's
Mm,
just all weird, and I hate James Corden.
mm.
I laugh because I remember he did all the things in traffic to like promote this movie, and everyone was honking at him when
That's
he's trying to
gross.
dance.
Yeah.
Just the worst shit. And this movie just confirms that that's the worst shit ever because this movie is just uninspired and by far one of the worst Cinderella adaptations there are. If you wanted to watch a good one, watch the one with Brandy from like 1990, whatever, like the early 2000s. It's on Disney Plus. By
Mm.
far my favorite of the live action adaptations for sure.
Yeah, I don't care for the Cinderella Amazon movie. The only reason I have it on my Vudu is because my editor bought me the Blu-ray because I reviewed the movie for him and he knew that I didn't like it very much, so it was like a gag gift. But yeah, it's bad. But everyone paying attention knew that was going to be bad. But yes, that has been our show for the day. I am Adam. I have hard reviews. Go check me out. I just did a Creed review as well as Cocaine Bear and 80 for Brady, which I have so much to say about sports jerseys. Steve, what you got?
I'm doing my Scream ranking and I'll have stuff on Scream 6 as soon as I watch it on Friday. So watch my channel for all that stuff.
Film fan reviews, everybody. And this has been Ass. I am Adam.
And I'm Steve.
And this has been our show, baby.
And we will see you next time. Watch movies all the time. Yes, yes, yes.